that's what's gonna happen when Queasy gets a win. So they were almost preparing for that, if that's what they've ended up doing. We'll get to have a little look at that in just a moment. And these are some of the fights that we saw earlier that are now starting to dwindle and fizzle out, because some of the teams that were contesting Taco, they've sort of moved. They've decided, okay, there's a bit more opening now, or a bit more of an opening in certain different areas. So for Tex and Faded and Bendy, we saw them in that big fight against Veno, Vico, and Flixie, which you'd have to say, came out on top of. Hopefully brimming with confidence now, and having an uncontested drop spot to boot, hopefully they'll be able to find a little bit more success now in that later stage of the game.
They're not the only ones that are going to need confidence. Continuing through Particle and Kire. A little bit of a sticky spot here with Hardfine's trio. And Haruko knows there's at least one, maybe two players close by. He's going to try to wrap around, see if he can catch an off angle. Instead, Haruko, he doesn't get the knock he needs. He'll find himself being turned upon. Still, this might go in favor of his trio, and it's only one surviving member currently, as Aspas will manage to put the double revive off onto Haruko, but this is a very difficult position now, because the last thing you want is to bank everything on that Game 5 performance.
Yeah, really, really difficult. This is interesting. I saw Bevies actually say that he was going to go to Seaport just now on socials, but they've decided to stick to what they know and what seems to be working for them as of right now. As Ewik is down, Unzen is also just cracked at that current point. So for Bevies, Axforce, and Della, they're using this as an opportunity to come on through. Beautiful shots there from Bevies, using the Infiltrator, the sniper shotgun in a way, when you have that level of aim. And it's going to be easy for them there just to roll on through. A formidable fight from those guys. You can see them already just building up, making sure there's not going to be any third parties. That's what would been their downfall, even not just them, but from other teams that are winning off spawn there. It's always going to be that third party that's coming on through. But look at this. Vico, Veno, Flixie getting active early on, trying to fight the team at Canyon Crossing. And this is where this team will thrive. As Flixie tries to get up on top of that hill, we can see Veno from another angle as well. As Vico's still trying to find his way in this fight as well. For Flixie, just looking for more angles. And they're just playing so well with each other, but also at separate positions. And I can't see Vico, so I'm not too sure where he is. And maybe that's why Flixie and Veno aren't just jumping in here. They're just trying to find a little bit extra Storm Surge damage. Because we saw them in that last game, wasn't it? They were looking for a little bit more damage. They were forced into that fight where Veno had to hit that 1v3 clutch. And of course, it didn't work out in the end. So maybe there's a little bit more proactivity here, Taco, in terms of getting Storm Surge damage. Hopefully for them, it'll work in their favor.
I mean, for Veno, Vico, and Flixie, they don't really have anything to lose. They're so comfortable with how many points they've been able to build in the first place on the leaderboard. It doesn't even necessarily matter to them. Sure, it'd be nice to find that Victory Royale that I think a lot of people are kind of anticipating to take place inevitably, but even if they don't get it, they are just sitting so lavish in comparison to a lot of these other teams, and Vic certainly wishing that they could find some kind of conclusion, but Veno and Flixie, they are just not letting up, just consistently peppering, consistently spraying. Vico, he's finally decided to join the mix and almost immediately catches an elimination for it. Make that 2, as Seke is gonna be next up to bat here is Vico, Veno, and Flixie. They certainly do not lack by any means in the fragging department, but probably just having fun with it, it seems like.
Yeah, Vico got all 3 there as well, and he was late. So he's turned up late and got all of the credit for those elims, which I'm sure he'll be very happy with. But now they've got this entire drop stops himself, and this is exactly how he went about getting those knocks. There was a beautiful one through the window, that left-hand peak. Vic had nowhere to go, so he only had to go into Vico. And unfortunately for the other team, fighting a trio with the ability of Vico, Veno, and Flixie is never going to go well. So for them, they have a nice extension to their loot. And Cranky and this trio. Interested to see what they do. Of course, we saw them sort of landing towards the top side of the map, which is a little bit of a change up of drop spot maybe. And this is a trio that have been coached today by seemingly everyone. Stormy Wright, Chicks, Malabuka, Artist, as well. Not Malabuka. But lots of people inside of the call there. But Cammy already getting a nice knock early on. Which gets them a nice elimination. And this is a team that are able to make the most of that damage when it comes to Storm Surge. They're going to be able to box up inside of those big bases that we saw them do. And find a little bit more consistency. I think for them, it's just more of the same, really, Taco. I don't think they're necessarily looking to poise for a victory. I think it's just, you know, like the other polls in the lobby of Combat, Blaha, and Mixon. It's simply just keep doing what we're doing, make those end games, and they can call off this game if they have a solid end game here.
Yeah, they really haven't done anything wrong. Everything has, for the most part, gone favorably enough that they're consistently finding themselves inside of those top 3, top 5 positions, and that's exactly where you want to be. If you don't confirm the Victory Royale, still being able to get that consistency placement off the leaderboard is always a nice touch. And it's also, consistency is definitely something that they're after when you consider how Major 1 panned out for them. Probably hoping to remain uncontested if they, you know, confirm themselves for the Major 2 finals. But they are definitely not the only ones. Mixing Combat Blaha, a little bit more of a scenic view, but Cranky just found himself in a very difficult position. He is entirely too split from the rest of his team, and Combat Blaha Mixon, they look hungry for an elimination. It's not going to take them much time at all. Poor Cranky just one step too far behind the rest of his trio. Absolutely nowhere left to run.
The freedom that Blaha, Combeck, and Mixon can play with right now is unmatched because they've pretty much already qualified. I think it was 207 points going into this last game. So, to be honest, for this trio, they don't have anything to lose whatsoever. I think it was just over 200 points last week. I think it was 204, something like that, that qualified our teams into the Major 2 finals. They're in Group 1. So, Group 2, if anything is similar, it should be about the same.
Not to mention that they don't have to worry about that team at Seaport because Queasy, Swizzy, and Murstache, they're already out. They're already qualified for the Major 2 finals, and we know that Combat Blaha and Mixon aren't too far behind, but this might as well be a victory lap here. It's Combat helping to confirm yet another elimination for this trio. Could be part of the reason, though, why we see them going on tour so early, too, though, because they have been going in a little bit of an exchange with Seaport. Instead, they're going to have to find that surge elsewhere. Love the fact that they're being proactive with it, though.
They're being proactive is Della, Axe-Force, and Bevies. Bevies early getting knocked, though. Abdul gets tagged, so he's going to have to heal up after getting that initial finish and knock. And for Buzz, he's also going to try and get a heal off here as well, as Axe-Force and Della now have to pick up the pieces. And I think this is just something we've seen all day, where Axe-Force, Della, and Bevies, they have a successful off-spawn. Maybe they fend off a third party or two, and they end up in these sort of messy fights. The mid-game fights that just aren't going in their favor. It's what we saw a lot of previously of teams coming out of that Kappa factory, just not able to then turn that into a consistent endgame. There's always something that goes wrong in the mid-game, and that's just sort of the story of the day for this trio. And big moments for them, of course, in this game, because they're just sort of outside that top 5 inconsistency. So if that's the way they need to go about qualifying, they need to make this game count. But for Abdul and YZY and Buzz, they're just looking to try and spoil their party up in the top end of the league.
The mental toll, though, that's probably starting to unfold here for Bevies, Della, and Axe-Force, because if it's not one thing, it's just another. Every single trio just seemingly swarming their position, no matter how many off-spawn fights they win. And Axe-Force, sadly, will find his life come to an end here. Buzz, Abdul, YZY, all just trying to encroach upon where Della is currently boxed up at. But Della, they'll look to delay for as long as possible, possibly hoping for some form of a third-party exchange to maybe bail him out of this position. Side jump nearly coming into his favor entirely. Della's still in control of a little bit of the high ground, but with Abdul now making the approach from a separate angle, it's just too much firepower. And Della just doesn't have the HP to work with here to actually convert this into something more promising. A full trio just playing it safe. until they know for sure that they can confirm it. And Della, sure enough, wiped yet again from the lobby. The dashy dash just proving to be their demise.
Yeah, just an ideal situation for them. Now they have to rethink. They're not going to be able to continue that collection of placement points they've seemingly been getting all day. Might be a win potential for them in that last game, but for Abdel, Buzz, and YZY, they've got a whole new problem to deal with. It's the freedom. It's the guys that don't have too much on their mind right now in terms of problems. It's Mix and Blaha and Combeck, and albeit Combeck going down, they do take out Abdel. So now it's all up to Buzz and YZY. But of all the teams in the lobby that you don't want to fight, it's a team like this, not only because of how good they are, but of course the amount of freedom they have right now. They could be just sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying themselves in this lobby, which is seemingly what they're doing.
Don't think there's anything much worse, though, than watching this tactical strike force land right on top of you. Blaha, Mixon, and Combeck. They were definitely the embodiment of just making sure that if you're going to be aggressive, be quick about it. Don't allow the opportunity for a third party to come into play. And Abdul, while he did manage to knock Combeck initially, you can see it didn't necessarily bode super well for the rest of his team, and YZY chased out by Blaha. Mixing Combeck and Blaha just continuing to one by one collect as many eliminations as they feel like, but this definitely has to be putting a pretty heavy mark in terms of their surge damage.
Oh, 100%. It's a bit of a disastrous situation for Abdul, Buzz, and YZY, because they're a team that were in second last going into this game. So that was almost a perfect start to their penultimate game, getting their Storm Surge done early in that fight against Axel, Stella, and Bevies. It was a perfect start for them, and they probably were thinking, right, this is great, we're going to be on the up here, and then who comes swooping on in? It's the team that you don't want to be fighting. But for Fredoxy, Pablo, Wingu, and Chino, we've seen a little bit of them throughout the day. It hasn't been amazing, and likewise, they're a team that are just outside of that consistency threshold, so every move they make is just so important. And I think this is a team that we should see in the Major 2 finals. You can see them just in their 13th place. 81 points, which is not enough, but they're going to need a solid game here to move up in the standings. It's just a team with so much experience, Taka, that it would be strange for them not to be in the Major 2 finals, albeit since we had, of course, Fredoxy not make Major 1 finals. It wouldn't be that shocking, I suppose, but it would be a little bit of a surprise, I guess you could say.
Fredoxy definitely just trying to prove that he is a contender. CZB, Eclipse, and Nathan, they also find themselves on a similar note. They will manage to collect an elimination, and they need every single point they can get. That quick flashing of the leaderboard showcasing that they are also just outside of that consistency threshold. And the last thing that they want is to have to rely on making their way to the Major 2 finals off the last chance qualifier. Only 3 games to work with in that kind of circumstance, and knowing that it's all down exclusively to winning, it's just so emotionally jarring that a lot of teams want to try and avoid that at all costs. But Eclipse, CZV, Nathan, got to be careful. They don't want to overexpose themselves by any means. Still, they have a lot of material to work with. And a lot of our teams today also just professional storm chasers, it seems like.
Yeah, a lot of these mid-game fights have sort of taken place in the Storm, and it's obviously just down to a lot of heals in the game. Getting that early damage for teams, they can sort of sit back. We saw that with Fredoxy, just quite happy to sit inside of the Storm, particularly when they do have that vault in their area. And for some other teams that do have that on their loot path, they can just come in and sort of scrap loot. For a team like Vico, Venom, Flixie, though, they're quite happy to sit inside the zone with all the loot that they have and potentially find another fight. But it was that early fight, those early 3 eliminations from Vico, which really just set this team up for success for the rest of this game. And again, I think it's a team that these guys should be making it to Major 2 finals. It would be a huge upset if they don't. And I don't see a way that they don't, but there's always, I suppose anything can happen. Here, Taka, they still need about 60-odd points, so still not said and done yet for this trio.
Would take a really strong performance from multiple teams in the lobby, and that's something that Mix and Blaha and Combeck are trying to shut down some of these stragglers. Buzz Looked like he'd been running a marathon, essentially, for how long he'd been trying to escape from Convict Blah and Mixin. Fortunately, only so far left to run when you're getting chased to the absolute outskirts. Jewel, Tidy, and Sangil. Brutal boxcars. And they're just kind of waiting. Trying to maybe scope out if there's going to be teams that they can look to try and cut off. But Jewel knows Surge Base directly behind their current position. Want to try and poke some mod shots here and there. Maybe try to dissuade them from focusing you. I like this, though, from Tidy. Just trying to build as many fish as possible. Spend as much time as possible fishing. And this is something that I think Seti and Cammy definitely like to take advantage of early on from this split drop here at Brutal Boxcars. But knowing that there are other teams looking to play out the same game plan, gotta kind of approach with caution.
Wox, Ping, and Malabuka, team that are inside of that top 5 consistency right now. Not as solidified as some of our other teams. But they're a team that do have what it takes to win a game in this sort of lobby. We've already seen how treacherous the lobby has been to some of our top teams. Teams that you would have already expected to maybe get a win for now, or by now. And could this be their time? We've seen them switching up their strategies early on. We've seen them lurking. We've seen them having a couple of situations where maybe teams are third party. They've had to really be reactive to what the rest of the lobby are doing so far today. And they've been doing that very well. But Vico, Veno, Flixie, they're continuing their push through this lobby. Going to pick up their 5th elimination of the game. There goes Vexy. And they're able to just play so deep inside of this storm. Again, they don't need that storm surge damage. They set themselves up nicely previously. And then surely they're going to find Kaisers right now. And they are. It's a really nice elimination, a really nice clean up of that trio. So 6 so far. They've got to make their way in now, though. And they're just on a tear at the moment through this lobby. And it's just the speed at which that fight was able to be finished at, which is really important for that team.
Almost anticipating that Venom, Vico, and Flixie are going to fight yet again. Zara's team closing up behind them. But Vico, Veno, Flixie, it's just so concise the way that they actually tackle some of these fights. They do such an excellent job at just forcing trios to kind of look multiple directions at once, but you can only keep tabs on so much as a singular player, and just the way that they manage to time and time again isolate individuals, that is incredibly impressive. But they might have a whole different kind of problem, because despite everything, they find themselves still rather deep inside of the storm. Zangi, Rickford, and Zada right behind them. And they're trying to definitely keep their heads ducked down low, throwing shots out where they can. But 1,200 above, Minnie, there's no real reason for Vico, Veno, and Flixie to take on a fight. At this point, they can just focus exclusively on getting their positioning established.
Yeah, the position is pretty good there as well. They got onto that dead side of zone. You can see the zone just pulling all the way back to where they are now. But unfortunately for them, the next zone pulls a little bit further. They should have a nice, simple rotation along this sort of dead side, but didn't quite work out in their favor before. I did see Wox. Yeah, Wox down in the feed. So Malabuka and Ping are left as a duo. Really difficult situation for this team. I mean, we could be in a situation here, Taco, going into the last game, where if these guys fall, they need a win to qualify on through. So every single move that Malabuka and Ping make right now is going to be that much more important. Still need around sort of 80 points-ish in order to qualify through. And you can see that they're capable of doing it. The average eliminations per final game is the highest in EU per final. So it does seem like they just have what it takes, and we know it. They have what it takes in these sort of lobbies to find eliminations, find the damage that's required. So I wouldn't count them out yet, but looking a little bit bleak going into this end game, being only a duo here.
Part of the problem just seems to stem from the fact that the last couple of weeks of the Div 1 finals, they seemingly lost their identity as a trio. They've kind of been going through an array of, I don't want to say dysfunction, but it's definitely been much more disastrous than what you would hope for. And Chino, Ferdoxia, and Pablo, they might find themselves along a similar note, I mean, you've seen the highs, you've seen the lows with this trio just form, but Malabuka doing what he can to try and scrape by. He's just running in to one hurdle after the next, though. QB and Loki, not going to take a second to look back, though, so Malabuka will manage to restore at least a little bit of his shield, but Malabuka, he needs a refresh, and he needs it now. He needs mats more than anything. Doesn't have any builds to work with. The moment that he shows himself inside his zone and got picked off. Ping, though, going huge for this duo. Voltiax and Siren, and that's going to be the lifeline extension that they needed, as Malabuka and Ping can now move a little bit more confidently into the next zone.
Yeah, look at their materials now. They're just building so much metal. There's such a force now in this lobby. They have all of that material that they've been able to get. There's a team below them and a team above them, though. It's Glubshy, Grippe, and Frax that are just trying to knock on their door. The big problem for this team right now, albeit having a lot of materials, no shield. So they're struggling to, they're going to struggle to try and find those knocks, those refreshes, those shields, because they don't have the shields initially to take those fights. Let's have another look at what Ping just did right here. Really nicely done, and this is exactly what you want out of your fraggers. You want people that are going to be able to just hop inside of the box, hit those big damage shots, not whiff in these moments, which Ping didn't. He hit that first shot beautifully. Malabuka there to close on in as well, and that's what got them that huge refresh. And it's the calmness, it's the experience, it's the ability to stay cool in these situations where things look to be going against you, is what separates the good teams from the great teams.
Keep an eye, though, on Cammy, just consistently gazing up at the high ground, taking notice of who's actually trying to control it. But the moment that he looks back, Malabuka just continuing to remain a focal point for some of our healthier looking teams in the lobby. He will manage to reunite with Ping, but this might actually end up working against them. Cammy and Seti, while it looked like they wanted an opportunity there to get a little bit more aggressive, they don't actually know what kind of dire situation Malabuka is in. It's got to be very concise, though, with this Mythic Pump. He's essentially only got one shot to make it happen as far as a refresh is concerned.
All weapons that you can 200 people with, that Mythic Pump can do it. So one big shot can turn their entire season around. As Pablo, Wingu, Fredoxy, and Chino. This is a team that we spoke about needing a solid game here, and they might get more than that as they're building up on hype. Claiming this position just outside of Seaport City. Way above the Storm Surge threshold as well, so the position, the elevated position above the rest of the lobby is looking really strong for them right now. I just saw Ping there going down in the feed, and we can see what Malabuka has to do, and this is what we spoke about. The problem that they have is they haven't got the health to get these eliminations, to get these knocks, and Malabuka only has 6 bills. He doesn't have the ability item of choice either, of preference, you could say. And he's just going to have to try and make his way and try and make anything happen. He gets it onto Sandgill. This is a perfect shot for him. Can he get that refresh? He gets the materials. It's a decent amount to keep him going in this game. The Siphon's going to retain a little bit of that white HP as well, but everyone else is looking at him, and unfortunately, it's too little too late for Malabuka. Big last game for them.
Just nowhere left to run. All the while, high ground continuing to spray these lower layers. Vico, also the lone standing member from this trio, but they have definitely been getting fraggy in this endgame. 8 eliminations already. Vico still looking to see if he can clutch up yet another one. Tex right next to him, but Vico, he's waiting for the perfect pounce to strike. Tex, though, gonna get the first jump instead, and Vico will be shut down here. CZB not even gonna get the opportunity to go for the revive. Instead, he's gonna opt to play the Chug Jug, just hoping that other players, other teams are going to wind up falling next to him and buying him a little bit more placement points.
Yeah, remember, that's a team that are just outside of that sort of top 5 in placement, so really big moments for him right there to clutch up. And Alex, Monzi, and Skyjump. I think this is a team that did end up landing Seaport, so a really nice position for them to be in. All 3 of them still alive as well. Materials are looking weak, but look who's on high. Look who's overtaken. It's Glubshy, it's Gripey, and it's Brax all the way up there. Fredoxy and company, they haven't got a chance to hold on to that high ground. And could this be the moment for this team? Now just down to a team all the way up on high, looking all the way down, just keeping on trying to apply as much pressure as possible, still alive as a trio, which is so important for them in these moments, just continuing to apply pressure down, and they have materials to tackle, so this could be their time.
Andalix, Mumsy, and Skyjump, though, they're hoping to kind of break their mark through. Instead, Andalix gonna get caught out. Doesn't get a chance to keep moving forward. Mumsy, though, with the return fire, but France has been eliminated from this endgame here as Blaha, Mixon, Comeback, they're not gonna be the ones fully in control of Frontside Low. They are looking to just break down everybody that's kind of straggling in last minute behind them. Team on Height still doing what they can, though, to try and cause a little bit of disorientation here. Blaha, he will get a moment to utilize his chug jug, but there wasn't much left in it. They have to find these conclusive shots, and they need it now, but Gripe, Prax, Glubshy, they don't want to let this opportunity slip by. They want to be the ones to confirm the Victory Royale. Mixon, one of the last hopes here left standing, has unfortunately been knocked. Comeback in a 1 versus 3 situation, and it's just too much to handle. Prax, Gripe, and Glubshy find themselves guaranteed